The hospital had always been a place of dread for me, a realm of sickness and despair. But on that fateful night, it transformed into something far more sinister, a place where reality and nightmare blurred into an indistinguishable haze. It was late October, and the autumn chill had settled in. My bout of pneumonia had landed me in the dreaded Ward 13 of St. Agnes Hospital. I couldn't have chosen a more ominous ward number if I tried, but my need for medical attention had left me with no other option. As I lay in my sterile, white-walled room, the world outside turned into a sea of darkness. The only source of illumination was the eerie glow of the hallway light seeping through the partially closed door. Shadows danced grotesquely on the walls, and the hum of medical equipment created a dissonant symphony that added to my growing unease. Nurse Williams, an affable woman with a comforting smile, had taken care of me during the day shift. But now, in the depths of night, a different nurse entered my room. Her name tag read Nurse Holloway, but her eyes held a depth of weariness that sent a chill down my spine. She moved with an almost ethereal grace, as if she floated on air. "Time for your medication," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her long fingers reached for the syringe, and as the needle pierced my skin, I felt a strange sense of dread wash over me. My heart raced, and I wanted to ask her why my medication felt so cold, but the words stuck in my throat. Nurse Holloway left the room without a word, and I was left alone with my escalating anxiety. As the minutes passed, I realized something was terribly wrong. The pain in my chest was not abating, and my breathing became labored. Panic set in as I struggled for air. I frantically pressed the call button, but no one answered. It was as if I had been abandoned in this forsaken place. My vision blurred, and I was on the brink of losing consciousness when Nurse Williams finally rushed in, her eyes wide with concern. "What happened? Why didn't you respond to the call button?" I gasped. She looked puzzled. "I didn't hear any call button, and I've been right outside the door." As Nurse Williams administered the proper medication, and my breathing stabilized, I couldn't shake the feeling that Nurse Holloway's visit had been no ordinary one. Her cold touch and the eerie silence that accompanied her departure left me with an unsettling sense that something unnatural had occurred. The next night, Nurse Holloway returned. Her eyes, once tired, now glowed with a strange malevolence. She administered the medication again, and as the icy liquid coursed through my veins, I felt myself slipping into a nightmarish reverie. I stood in a desolate corridor, surrounded by flickering overhead lights. The walls oozed with an otherworldly darkness, and a chorus of agonized whispers filled the air. The voices seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once, and they echoed with the anguish of those who had suffered in this forsaken place. "Help us," they moaned, their words a cacophony of torment. "We are trapped in this eternal nightmare." I stumbled down the corridor, drawn toward a faint, flickering light at the end. The closer I got, the more the voices intensified, their despair turning into an unbearable cacophony that threatened to shatter my sanity. When I reached the source of the light, I found myself in a small, dimly lit room. An old, rusted hospital bed sat in the center, and on it lay a gaunt, emaciated figure. It was Nurse Holloway, but she looked nothing like the nurse who had entered my room. Her eyes glowed with a malevolent fire, and her bony fingers reached out to me. "Join us," she hissed, her voice a sinister whisper. "Become one with the lost souls of Ward 13. I recoiled in horror and fled the room, the haunting cries of the tormented souls ringing in my ears. The corridor seemed to stretch on endlessly, and the walls closed in, threatening to engulf me in their suffocating darkness. I awoke in my hospital bed, drenched in sweat, the memories of the nightmare still vivid in my mind. I knew that something was terribly wrong in Ward 13, that Nurse Holloway was no ordinary nurse, but a vessel for the malevolent spirits that haunted this place. With every passing night, the visits from Nurse Holloway continued, and the boundary between the waking world and the nightmarish realm of Ward 13 grew thinner. I became convinced that I was not the only one to experience these horrors. The other patients in the ward, their faces etched with fear, had their own tales of Nurse Holloway's chilling visits. Together, we hatched a plan to confront the malevolent presence that haunted Ward 13. Armed with makeshift talismans and unwavering resolve, we waited for Nurse Holloway's return. When she entered my room that night, her eyes flared with a sinister gleam, but we were ready. We chanted incantations and held our talismans aloft, unleashing a blinding light that seemed to banish the malevolent spirit from Nurse Holloway's body. Her scream pierced the air as she writhed in agony, the darkness within her recoiling from the cleansing light. With one final, tortured cry, she collapsed to the floor, her body lifeless. The nightmares and torment in Ward 13 ceased, and the hospital returned to a semblance of normalcy. But the memory of that haunting experience would forever haunt my dreams. I knew that Ward 13 held secrets beyond imagination, and that some horrors were better left undiscovered.